now I realize, she said, that a lot depends on me. So I felt so good, because that's a sign of this. She's becoming empowered, and she's trying to take hold of her life.
But if you're watching Jazzvet Talks, the podcast where we spill the coffee, not the tea, in honor of International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, we're joined by Maro Matosian, the Executive Director of Women's Support Center, the largest and most established domestic violence center in Armenia. Բարև Maro, thank you for joining us.
Most more welcome.
So to start, we wanted to know, what drove you to starting this center, and what did it take to launch such a project?
Yeah. I think everybody is shocked when I tell them that I'm an art history major. And what brought me to all this? In 2010, it started as a pilot program of the Tufenkian Foundation, together with Armenian International Women's Association, IWA, and U.S. Embassy. And we started with 40 beneficiaries. And very quickly, first of all, I was drawn by the women's stories, and I always wanted to work with for the rights of women. And so that this was an opportunity. And I realized that whatever we were doing here, it didn't sound, I was not confident that we're doing the right thing. So I went back to the States. I cleared the shelf of the library with all the books. I started searching and reading, and then I found in New Jersey, where I'm based, I found the women's organization, the New Jersey Battered Women's Services. They trained me, and that opened the whole spectrum. And I came back. We also invited people from the diaspora to come and train the local staff here. And that's how we started, with a lot of passion and a lot of determination to follow the international best practices. This was the main principle that we had, that we were going to work based on international best practices, because that is what proved that saved lives.
And I wonder what kind of reactions you get from public here, like when you started.
Oh, that's a good question. When we started in 2010, the country was in denial. When I said the country, was because in society, people were saying that, no, we don't have domestic violence. This is maybe in some forgotten village, someplace very far away. We love our families, we love our children, we don't have such things. These are concepts from the West. We don't have this problem. And that was the message, and from the population, as well as from the state agencies, from the ministries. And then we were saying, no, any society has this problem, and we should be aware of it in order to combat it, and also to protect victims. It took a long time. I remember in 2013, when the Division of the Police of Domestic Violence was created, even women policemen would come to me and they were saying, the women are the instigators. They are provoking the husbands. The poor man, he comes home, he's tired, and the woman constantly complains that there is not enough money. Obviously, the man is going to slap her around. And this was the attitude. And it took us a while to counter that. And that we were able to do it not necessarily with theory that we were training people, but with evidence-based and data, and the victims were talking about what was happening.
Mm. Yeah, I remember in one interview you were mentioning that they were in denial, and then you bring this survivor,
yes,
and they start to understand finally.
Yes. It was a challenging time. I remember that day very clearly, because I was going crazy. After 3 days of training, they were resisting. They didn't want to accept that there is such a thing. So finally, we had a woman at the shelter. We brought her. She agreed to to tell her story, basically. And that's when they opened their eyes and they couldn't believe what's happening.
Gender-based violence is still really like rooted deeply in cultural attitudes and myths. What does it take to change it?
Well, we have to understand that Armenia is a patriarchal society. And what I'm saying that I'm talking also about the causes of domestic violence. That domestic violence, that patriarchal society means that the men rule. Basically, they create the laws. They feel that they are entitled to everything. They feel that they have all the rights. And the women are sort of like second-rate citizens. And I remember when my kids were going to school here, and I have twins, a boy and a girl, the Tasrege, the teacher, was telling me, your daughter is very good in school, but you should pay more attention to your son, because in the end, they are the leaders in this country. So you understand the attitudes that are happening. And because of that, men are, since they are born boys, they are taught to be that they're entitled to everything. They are the ones who decide everything. They should have everything, and they should not. And the woman should just be subservient and obedient, and their name, like he's the
Owner?
the boss.
The
He's the boss,
Mm-hmm.
and the woman should be the one that she just obeys to his wishes and to his desires. So she doesn't have a right to decide on anything. She doesn't have a say, and many times girls are uh, uh, brought up like that, where the father decides, the older brother decides, they don't have a say. And then they get married, then many times the husband is doing the same thing. So we have many cases when women, they come to us and they cannot decide for themselves. Doesn't know, they're lost when they say, well, what do you want to do? They cannot make decisions. They completely...
As if they lost themselves, like...
Yes, first of all, they don't have self-esteem. Yeah. They don't have self-confidence, and they don't know what that does it entail to decide on your own life. They're never, their wishes, their desires, their thoughts were never valued, and they have no idea how to make decisions for their lives.
And what about the survivors that have shame?
The marriage is broken when there is violence, so they feel like they failed. They feel like all this is happening because of them. They could have been better, because the abuser also blames her constantly and puts her down constantly, that she's incompetent, she's not a good mother, she's not a good wife, she cannot do this right, she cannot do that. There's constant criticism. It's not just the physical abuse, it's the psychological abuse that it's always present in any form of domestic violence. So she really has a very low self-esteem of herself. And because of that, she blames herself. I'm at fault. She doesn't understand. And that's where our work comes into play, the work of empowering the victim. The survivor needs to, we work on empowerment. And the empowerment means to get away of the trauma effects and be able for her to start deciding for herself what she wants, the self-determination we call it, and also build her self-confidence, build her self-esteem. The other day I was at the shelter and I told one of the women, love Galini, it will be okay. And then I realized I shouldn't give false expectations. And I said, but a lot of it depends on you too. I said, now I realize, she said, that a lot depends on me. So I felt so good, because that's a sign of this. She's becoming empowered and she's trying to take hold of her life. And that's very important. Yeah.
Reconnecting
exactly.
to herself.
Exactly, yeah.
But I was also thinking about the women from Artsakh that definitely feel very guilty to be reporting on their husbands that maybe like fight for the country, or like they have like more children, I don't know.
Well, it's interesting, because in 2020 when the war was and there was a flood of women and children that came as refugees, displaced, let's say, we tried to have group sessions. We were going in the dormitories or where there were a cluster of women, and they didn't want to talk about domestic violence. They said, no, 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 we don't have this, and our men are fighting for us. We're not going to report anything. They were not in denial necessarily, but they refused to talk about it. Now, when they are settled here and they understand that they have laws here, there are protections, there is police protection and everything, they're coming out more and more with their stories. But it's difficult for them because they are in a precarious situation. They are away from their familiar environment. They live precariously. They don't have the support system. Their relatives are maybe dispersed in different places. And it's more difficult for them to have the support system. But more and more they're coming out.
Yeah.
And also, the effects of war. We know that displacement and war, the PTSD from war, they are triggers. The war and displacement are triggers for domestic violence. So there should be an increase there. And women, when the knife hits the bone, as they say, when it's like very difficult for them, when they feel the danger, that's when they come out.
Just this year, it was a 37% increase in domestic violence cases.
Yes.
The prosecutor's office, according to them.
It takes a lot of courage to come out of a domestic violence situation. Because for a woman who was not allowed to work, who was very much belittled and deprived of any means, for her to start a life on her own, and she's taught that without a man you cannot do anything in this life, in this society, and with 3-4 children to come out of a relationship with no money and anything, it's very, very difficult, and to face the uncertainty that you don't know what's going to happen, where are you going to go, what's going to happen. It takes a lot of courage for women to come out. But in order to save lives, it's very important that they realize that there are other opportunities and there is another alternative. And then also the effects that it has on the woman and on the children, primarily. Children who live in an environment of domestic violence, not only they regress in their education, they have nightmares, they have bedwetting disproportionate to their age, they cannot speak properly, they have fears, nightmares, it's aggressive behavior, it's a lot of difficulties. And then when they grow up, they become adults. Most of the boys become abusers themselves, and most of the girls, they enter this type of relationships. Many times we ask, was in their family, was there abuse? And many times, because that's what they've seen, that's what they know, and that's why they replicate. And the women, many times, they don't feel that there is something abnormal, because that's what they've seen. So they think that everywhere is the same thing, and that's why one of the reasons they don't report also.
About the signs of abusive relationship, can you talk more about?
I have a stop sign. I don't know where it is. I'm trying to find. It's green, yellow, and red. And with green is a healthy relationship, a relationship that is more or less based on equality, where together you decide on things, you respect each other, you respect each other's feelings, each other's privacy. You decide together. There is less of this dominant, obedient type of relationship. Then there is the yellow. Then there is the warning signs. When he is extremely jealous, when he tries to, don't go with your friends, you don't need to see those friends, you don't need to see your parents, they're not a good influence on you. Try to dress like this, don't dress like that, So it started the controlling elements are coming into play. And then when the isolation and not to cut all ties with the outside world, and make him more and more independent. And also it starts the belittling. You don't do this right. You're not good. You don't look good. Nobody looks at you. Nobody pays attention to you. Don't speak. Don't say this. Don't say that. And then the red is that when the abuse is happening, and it's more of a controlling behavior, more of a the abuser try to exert power over the victim and control over her. And out of nothing, it flares up into physical abuse or sexual abuse or depriving economically of things. When I say depriving economic, I mean belittling the woman to make her so dependent that you have to beg for medication, for hygiene products, for diapers. Many times the woman doesn't understand how it got there because she loves her husband or the partner, and it grows, it slowly increases. It's not from the first day that he hits her. It slowly becomes more and more controlling and more overwhelming in the dominance and the abusive language and the abusive behavior, putting her down, isolating her from everybody else, and the family becomes distant. Her own family, her parents, parental, they become, her friends are done frequently, so she's becoming very isolated. But I have to say that more and more women now, the awareness raising that our organization and other women organizations have constantly, and people like you, journalists, they raise the awareness constantly on this type of behavior. And I think women more and more are realizing that this is not acceptable and it's a crime.
What kind of protections and services can women and children get from Women's Support Center?
A support center, and we have one in each region of Armenia. When I say we in Armenia, they are separate NGOs that we trained, and they follow the same methodology. A support center offers social services. So in other words, the woman, when she comes here, she has an interview with a social worker. She can call the hotline, first of all, and the hotline directs her to a social worker. And the social worker, first of all, believes her, tells her that information is confidential, establishes a relationship of trust, which is very important, and never doubts her, because this is if that happens, then the victim shuts up. She doesn't talk anymore. And we try to understand what she needs. She might want to go to the shelter, she might want to find a job, she might want to leave her abuser and all that. We tell them that never mention to your partner that you want to leave or separate, because that's the most dangerous period and it can be lethal in that time. She might want to go to see the psychologist. The centers have a psychologist. We do have a child psychologist also. Some centers do, some centers don't. And also we have legal services for civil law, alimony, divorce, custody of children, visitation rights, and so forth. And then we have criminal lawyer. And if the woman wants, we go ahead with that as well. So and then the social worker decides sort of like a strategy together with the women's goals. So for example, they try to look for a job, sometimes they have to, the abusers have destroyed her documents, birth certificate, passport. Nowadays we see a lot of digital violence. This is something new, relatively new, where the abusers tries to blackmail her. I'm gonna put nude photos, I'm gonna show everybody what type of a person you are and all that.
Revenge porn.
Exactly. We try to find ways to reinstate her into society, to empower her. We have to work with her, because sometimes even if she doesn't live in an abusive relationship anymore, she's not ready to hold a job, because the trauma effects, she cannot concentrate, she forgets constantly. You have to bring her to a level of recovery that she can become functional in society. The damages of abuse, especially if it has been for many, many years, and we have cases 10, 15, 20 years, it can leave a lot of scars, emotional scars.
And it's thanks to the Women's Support Center that Armenia even got its first domestic violence law in 2017.
It's not thanks to us necessarily, but we were one in the coalition against violence against women that we pressured the government a lot. We advocated for it a lot. And in the beginning, when we didn't have the law, we were forced to protest in the street. And in the street, we did a lot of actions to raise awareness about this problem. And we talked a lot about it. But when Armenia joined the European Partnership Agreement, the European Union put as a condition to adopt, which a law that was already ready. I mean, we constantly back and forth, we made amendments to the law and all that. And the law finally, it was not a perfect law, but it was a stepping stone. And then in 2022, we prepared another package of amendments that were passed in Parliament in 24. And it's better now, but still we have a lot of areas to work with.
If you can share like a story, like a success story of like a victim like of domestic violence.
When women come here, many times I don't recognize them the second time they come, because when they come, first they come, they don't have makeup, they are depressed, their hair is not washed and all that. And then after a few weeks I see them, they are bright and happy and all that. And I don't even say hello because I don't recognize them, you know. And it's a pleasure for me to see the transformation. I'd like to take this opportunity and mention that if there are victims out there, that they should call our hotline numbers, which works around the clock, anytime. 099 88 78 08. And they should keep this. I know there was a woman who saw our number from a television interview, a hotline number, but her mother was in Russia. She was sending her iPhone. The husband, when he was discovering, was smashing the iPhone. So she would carry that piece of paper with our hotline number in her pocket from one pant or skirt to another. And finally one day she found the courage and a possibility to call us. And this is how she came out of that relationship. So maybe sometimes women are not ready. Many times their mothers, their sisters, their friends call us, but it's very important for them to call us, because not always, I mean, when we see from the outside what's happening in that relationship, we are very concerned, and rightfully so. But if the woman is not ready to take that step, we cannot do anything. So she has to call, and we can offer opportunities for her or information, what she can do and what steps that she can take to live a life free of abuse, which it's everybody's right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This has been great. Thank you.